My neighbor texted me, "You need to stop the nonstop parties at your place. This has gone too far." Confused, I checked the security cameras at my dream beachfront vacation home I had recently bought. That's when I saw my sister and her husband, along with their family of 10, throwing a full-on party. I didn't hesitate, I called 911 and the first sign was a cold prickle, a phantom chill crawling up my spine, long before the literal cold seeped into my fingers. It wasn't the frosty Cape May air. I was hundreds of miles away, marooned in the fluorescent hum of my marketing firm office. The email subject line blared like an alarm. Urgent. Your property in Cape May. My stomach, already tied in knots over a looming presentation deadline, dropped to my shoes. This wasn't just a work email. This was personal. This was Gerald Martinez. Gerald and I had exchanged perhaps 10 words since I closed on my dream beach house. He was the quiet, retired neighbor, a guardian of coastal serenity, or so I'd imagined. His message obliterated any illusion of calm. "Miss Crawford, I've tried to be patient, but this has gone too far. Nightly parties. Music until 3 a.m. Cars blocking the street. Trash everywhere." He painted a vivid tableau of chaos, a desecration of the peaceful sanctuary I'd poured my life into. And then the kicker: if this continues, we'll involve the police and the homeowners association. My hands, now genuinely cold, fumbled for my phone. Parties? I hadn't set foot in Cape May for over a month. The beach house wasn't just a property. It was the culmination of 6 years of 70-hour work weeks, of canceled vacations, of every self-denial imagined. It was my future, my quiet rebellion against a life I sometimes felt wasn't entirely my own. A small, perfectly imperfect cottage, nothing extravagant, but it was mine. My eventual retirement, my remote summer escape, etched into every plank and window pane. Now, it was a liability. I reread Gerald's email 3 times, each word a hammer blow, trying to reconcile his accusations with my own meticulously planned reality. Then, with fingers that shook so violently I nearly dropped the device, I opened my security camera app. I'd installed the system myself, a minor engineering feat for insurance, but mostly for peace of mind. For cameras, front entrance, back deck, driveway, living room, silent sentinels I rarely checked. Why would I? There had never been a reason. The live feed from the front camera stuttered to life. My breath hitched. A silver SUV, undeniably alien, sat brazenly in my driveway. Switching to the back deck, the image assaulted me. Brightly colored beach chairs I'd never purchased, towels casually flung over railings, and a graveyard of empty beer bottles clustered on my carefully chosen outdoor table. The quiet hum of the office faded, replaced by the frantic drumbeat of my own heart. This wasn't a mistake. This was an invasion. I scrolled back, searching for the truth hidden in the digital timestamps. The previous night. 7:45 p.m. The front door swung open. A woman emerged, grocery bag in hand, her laughter echoing even through the muted playback. 3 seconds. That's all it took to recognize her. Vanessa. My older sister. Behind her, her husband, Keith, wrestling a cooler. Their 3 children followed, a whirlwind of youthful energy. Then Keith's brother and his wife. And 2 more unfamiliar faces. 10 heads. 10 people. Using my house. Like it was theirs. And then, the ultimate slap, Vanessa, unlocking my front door with a key I'd never given her. The only spare key, I knew, was secured in a lockbox managed by the property company. This was more than just a family disagreement. It was a brazen act of calculated entitlement. In many ways, individuals who operate from a place of deep-seated entitlement often view other people's resources, be it time, money, or property, as extensions of their own, readily available for their use without explicit permission or concern for boundaries. This psychological framework can make them genuinely bewildered and even angry when their rightful access is challenged. I kept scrolling backward, a morbid curiosity guiding my mouse. 3 days prior, their cars appeared. Before that, 2 weeks of eerie quiet. Before that, another 5-day stretch of occupation. And further still, 6 weeks of periodic takeovers. Always Vanessa and Keith's crew. Always treating my hard-won sanctuary like a free-for-all vacation rental. Then, my phone buzzed again, vibrating against the polished wood of my desk. Another email. This time, from the Homeowners Association. A formal complaint. Noise violations. Threats of fines. Something sharp and cold, colder than the morning air, settled deep within my chest. Vanessa and I had always existed in different orbits, our paths diverging sharply after college. She'd married Keith, built her family by 30, and viewed my career-driven life as a selfish, lonely existence. Our family gatherings were verbal skirmishes, her thinly veiled criticisms masquerading as concern about my empty life. When I'd announced the beach house purchase, her cutting remark still stung. "Who will you even enjoy it with?" Mom had chuckled, Dad had changed the subject. No one questioned Vanessa's narrative. No one ever did. I thought the physical invasion was the worst part. I was wrong. The deeper violation was yet to reveal itself. I called the property management company first. The woman on the other end sounded harried, almost guilty. "Oh, Miss Crawford. Yes, I've been meaning to reach out. We've had complaints, permission to stay there." My voice, hard and brittle, cut through her nervous babble. "Absolutely not." "Who accessed the lockbox?" A pause. The distant click-clack of a keyboard. "Our logs show 2 accesses. One from our maintenance contractor, and one from Vanessa Holloway. 6 weeks ago. Said she was your sister, needed documents. Knew your full name, address, confirmed security questions. The receptionist," she stammered, "wasn't there that day. She would have called me first." Vanessa Holloway. Keith's last name. Of course. A shield of legitimacy. And the security questions? Trivial. My birthplace, college, Mom's maiden name, information she'd absorb and wield as readily as she breathed. "That was unauthorized," I stated, my voice strangely level, despite the seismic shift occurring inside me. "She's been using the property without my permission for weeks. I have it on camera." The woman's tone morphed into pure alarm. "We'll change the lockbox code immediately. Do you want us to contact the police?" "I'll handle it," I said, disconnecting the call. The smart thing to do, the family-friendly thing, would have been to call Vanessa. To confront her, to demand an explanation, an apology. But I knew that script by heart. She'd minimize. She'd make excuses. She'd turn it on me. "You weren't even using it. Don't you want your nieces and nephews to make happy memories? Why are you always so selfish?" Her martyr's tone, sharp and practiced, already echoed in my mind. No. Not this time. I dialed 911. My explanation was precise, devoid of emotion. Unauthorized occupants. Ongoing trespassing. Legal owner 2 hours away. Video evidence. The dispatcher's voice, calm and professional, cut through my rising panic. "Are they currently at the property?" I checked the live feed. 3 cars. Movement in the living room. Yes. Officers are en route. Stay on the line. 20 minutes later, through the digital window of my screen, 2 patrol cars glided into view. 4 officers. A knock. Then louder. The door opened. Keith, barefoot, a beer in hand, his face a canvas of confusion slowly morphing into alarm. He shouted back into the house. Vanessa appeared, wearing a sundress I'd never seen, her face draining of color. The officer spoke. Vanessa gesticulated wildly, pointing, arguing. Keith crossed his arms, jaw clenched. A child briefly appeared, then was ushered back inside. The officers stepped through my threshold. I switched feeds to the living room. All 10 occupants, now huddled, their faces etched with anxiety. 2 officers took statements. The others moved through my home, documenting the invasion. My work phone rang, an insistent buzz. I ignored it. My presentation could wait. This was a stark illustration of the consequences of unaddressed entitlement within family systems. When one individual consistently disregards the boundaries and property of another, particularly if they've been implicitly or explicitly enabled over time, the eventual confrontation can feel like a devastating betrayal to the entitled party, rather than a necessary imposition of justice. The shock and anger they express are often not remorse, but rather frustration that their perceived right has been challenged. 15 minutes later, they were escorted out. Vanessa, weeping openly. Keith, furious, his face a mask of rage. The children, clutches of backpacks and stuffed animals, bewildered. Keith's brother shouldering the cooler. His wife scooping up beach toys. Under police supervision, they loaded into their vehicles and drove away, leaving behind a silence that felt heavier than the earlier chaos. One officer remained, walking the perimeter, taking photographs. My phone rang again. A local number. Miss Crawford. Officer Denise Morrison. Cape May Police Department. We've cleared the unauthorized individuals. I gave her everything. The timeline, Vanessa's deception, Gerald's email, the HOA's complaint. She listened, asked clarifying questions, and advised that while I could press charges, family dynamics made it complicated. That's fine, I said, a strange emptiness settling over me. I just need them gone. And this documented. Understood. We've informed them that any return will result in immediate arrest. I recommend changing all locks and security codes. Already in progress. I hung up, staring at the inert computer screen. No anger. No satisfaction. Just this profound, exhausting hollowness. Then, my phone exploded. Text messages. A barrage. Vanessa, how could you do this to us? Vanessa, you called the police on your own family. Vanessa, the kids are traumatized. I hope you're happy. Keith, you're unbelievable. We were just using a house you never stay at. Mom, your sister just called me in tears. What is going on? I turned the phone face down. My presentation, mundane and impersonal, offered a strange solace. That evening, I drove to Cape May. The property management company, chastened and efficient, had already changed the locks. My new keys felt heavy in my hand. Walking through my house, cataloging the damage, felt like performing an autopsy on a dream. A red wine stain, a dark bloom on the living room carpet. A broken lamp in the guest bedroom. The deck furniture, meticulously chosen, now scratched and sun-faded, abandoned to the elements. My expensive coffee maker, a chipped carafe. Mildew blossoming in the guest bathroom shower. And in the master bedroom, the sheets rumpled, the faint scent of foreign occupancy. Keith's electric razor, carelessly left in the cabinet. A child's drawing, taped to my refrigerator. An entire shelf in the fridge dedicated to Vanessa's favorite sparkling water. They hadn't just used it, they'd moved in. They'd made themselves at home, oblivious to the fact that I'd worked myself to exhaustion to buy this slice of peace. I spent 3 hours cleaning, scrubbing, erasing every trace of their unwanted presence. My phone buzzed ceaselessly, a digital fly. I ignored it. Around midnight, exhausted, I finally sat on my back deck, a glass of wine clutched in my hand, and looked at the messages. 37 texts. 12 missed calls. 3 voicemails. Vanessa had escalated from anger to emotional terrorism. I can't believe my own sister would humiliate me like this. Mom had joined the fray. This is not how family treats each other. Your sister made a mistake, but you've taken this too far. Those poor kids. Dad's single message. Call me when you're ready to talk. Keith's messages were pure venom, accusations of bitterness, jealousy, selfishness, threats to expose what kind of person I really was. I deleted everything, unsent, unread. Sleep was an elusive phantom that night. The ocean waves, usually a soothing balm, now sounded like a mocking reminder of the chaos they'd witnessed. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa's face when the police arrived, the shock, then the anger, and finally, a look of profound betrayal, as if I were the villain. At 3 a.m. I gave up, made coffee, and wrapped myself in a blanket on the deck. The air was salt and seaweed. A few headlamp-wearing joggers bobbed along the pre-dawn beach. My phone lay silent beside me. I picked it up, scrolled through the deleted messages one last time. Vanessa's message, though unsent, echoed loudly, "We're family." That's supposed to mean something. She was right. It was supposed to mean something. But what she didn't understand, what she had perhaps never understood, was that family worked both ways. It meant respect. Honesty. Asking, not taking. These were the parts she'd conveniently edited out. I remembered my favorite sweater, borrowed and returned stained. My car, borrowed, returned with an empty tank. My laptop, just for a quick project, gone for weeks. Each time, I'd let it go. Each time, Mom had coached me. That's what sisters do. Yet, when I'd asked to borrow Vanessa's vacuum, I'd received a 20-minute lecture on responsibility. When I'd needed a ride to the mechanic, she'd been too busy with the kids. The generosity had always flowed in a single direction. As the sun began to paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, a new feeling emerged. Not anger, but a profound, weary sense of being utterly done. I finally understood that my family wasn't just asking for forgiveness. They were demanding a return to complicity. And I was done paying that price. The next morning, fortified by the rising sun, I filed a formal incident report with the HOA, attaching the security footage and police report number. I sent Vanessa an invoice, $4,300 for damaged items, professional cleaning, and HOA fines. Her reply arrived within the hour. You're seriously charging your own family for staying at a house you abandoned? Abandoned. That word, a barb straight to the heart. 6 years of saving, working through holidays while she hosted family gatherings, sacrificing new clothes and dinners out. All for this one, singular thing that was entirely mine. And she called it abandoned, because I didn't live there full time. I typed a furious response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I settled on unassailable facts. You trespassed on my property for 6 weeks, lied to gain access, caused damage, and generated complaints that could have resulted in legal action against me. Yes, I'm charging you. You have 30 days to pay. Her reply was instantaneous. This is insane. I can't believe you're doing this over a mistake. A mistake? As if she'd grabbed the wrong key by accident? This wasn't an oversight. It was a deliberate, sustained pattern of deception and entitlement. I didn't respond. I screenshotted the conversation and added it to my growing folder of documentation. Everything, from now on, needed a paper trail. Another message, this time from Keith. You know, we can't afford this right now, but I guess you don't care about that. Their financial situation was not my concern. They'd found money for multiple trips to my beach house, gas for 2 vehicles, groceries and alcohol for 10 people, entertainment for their children. They could find money to repair the damage they'd caused. I knew how this would play out. They'd refuse to pay, claim I was unreasonable, and I'd be left with the choice of suing family or eating the cost. Neither was appealing. I forwarded everything to my attorney, Richard Chin, with a terse note. They're refusing payment and claiming financial hardship. What are my options? Then, I blocked her number. Within the hour, my phone rang. Patricia. Mom's best friend, a surrogate aunt. Her voice, thick with concern, began. Honey, I just talked to your mother. She's beside herself about this situation. I closed my eyes, a familiar weariness washing over me. Mom, calling in the cavalry. I appreciate your concern, Patricia, but this is between me and my sister. I know. But families go through rough patches. Maybe if you just talk to her. She had 6 weeks to talk to me. She chose not to. She was probably scared you'd say no. Exactly. She knew what she was doing was wrong, so she hid it. That's not a mistake, Patricia. That's a calculated decision. A silence. Then, softer. Your mother thinks you're being too harsh. My mother didn't have police called to her property because of someone else's unauthorized use. My mother didn't get threatening emails from neighbors. My mother didn't spend her evening scrubbing wine stains out of carpet that someone else spilled. I understand you're upset. I'm not upset, I corrected, my voice firm. I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. We ended the call shortly after. Patricia joined my mental list of people who prioritized perceived family peace over actual accountability. The next afternoon, Jennifer, a work colleague, texted. Saw your sister's Facebook post. You okay? Social media. I'd avoided it. Curiosity, a powerful current, pulled me in. Vanessa's post was a masterpiece of vague martyrdom, a lengthy lament about betrayal, about the people you trust most, hurting you the worst. Comments flooded in. Supportive messages from friends utterly ignorant of the truth. Mom's string of heart emojis. Keith's mothers, praying for your family during this difficult time. The narrative was being written without me. I was the villain, simply for protecting my property. When people lack a legitimate defense for their actions, they often pivot to emotional appeals, character assassination, or a theatrical performance of victimhood. This tactic, a form of emotional manipulation, aims to shift public sympathy and deflect accountability, effectively turning the person who was wronged into the aggressor for reacting to the transgression. It leverages the human tendency to sympathize with apparent suffering, regardless of its origin. Jennifer called. What actually happened? I told her everything. She listened, then a low whistle. That's absolutely wild. Your own sister. Yep. And she's posting like she's the victim. Are you going to respond? Set the record straight. I pictured it. A carefully worded post, security footage, the timeline. Public vindication. But it would also escalate, turning a family conflict into public warfare. No, I finally said. Let her spin whatever story she wants. The people who matter know the truth. You're way more mature than I'd be, Jennifer said. I'd blast her. Maybe she was right. Maybe I was too restrained. But public confrontation felt beneath me. Vanessa craved drama and attention. Engaging would only feed it. 2 days later, Diane Porter, the HOA president, called. Miss Crawford, I wanted to follow up on your incident report. She sounded uncomfortable. The board reviewed the footage and police documentation. We're formally warning you, she paused, then corrected herself, your sister and her family, that any future trespassing will result in immediate fines and potential legal action from the association. Thank you, I said, a wave of relief washing over me. I appreciate the board's support. Between you and me, Diane continued, her voice dropping conspiratorially, we've had issues before with owners' family members treating properties like vacation rentals. It creates liability for everyone. You did the right thing addressing this immediately. Her validation, from someone outside the family vortex, mattered more than I cared to admit. Are the neighbors satisfied? Gerald and his wife? Absolutely. They'd like to bring you a welcome basket now that they know you'll be using the property properly. They felt terrible about the initial email. That's kind of them. I'd love to meet them properly. After we hung up, something shifted. This house, this community, could actually become the peaceful retreat I'd envisioned. Without the shadow of Vanessa's entitlement. Dad called that evening. Mom called that afternoon. I let her go to voicemail. Her message was predictably laced with guilt. Family forgives. Family moves past disagreements. Why was I being so stubborn and cold? Vanessa had apologized, even though she didn't really do anything wrong. That last part made me laugh, a bitter, hollow sound. An apology, with a disclaimer, wasn't an apology. I called Dad back. Hey, sweetheart, his voice was careful. Hey. A pause. Your mother is upset. I know. Your sister is also aware. He sighed. Want to tell me your side? I did. Everything. The emails, the security footage, the repeated unauthorized use, the lies to get access, the damage, the dismissive attitude, the complete lack of remorse. Dad listened without interruption. When I finished, a long silence hung between us. What do you want to happen here? He finally asked. I want acknowledgement that what she did was wrong. Not an excuse-filled apology, not minimization. Actual accountability. You know your sister. Exactly. Another pause. The money you invoiced her for. Do you actually expect her to pay? No. But I expect her to understand there are consequences. And if she doesn't, then she doesn't get access to me anymore. Or my house. Or my life. Dad exhaled slowly. That's harsh. Is it? She stole from me, Dad. She lied, trespassed, damaged my property, caused me professional stress with my neighbors and HOA, and then acted like I was the villain for enforcing basic boundaries. How is cutting someone like that out of my life harsh? He had no answer. We talked for a few more minutes about neutral topics, then said goodbye. I knew he understood, even if he wouldn't say it outright. Dad, the lifelong peacekeeper, understood that some lines, once crossed, could not be uncrossed. I realized then that sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from those who consistently diminish your peace. The following week, a letter arrived from a lawyer. Keith had hired an attorney to dispute my invoice, claiming verbal permission, and accusing me of fabricating evidence to harass them. I forwarded it to Richard Chin, my attorney, with a simple note. Please handle this. Richard called me that evening. This is absurd and won't go anywhere, but I want you prepared for them to make noise. Let them. The security footage is clear. The police report is documented. The property management company has records. They have no case. Good. He paused. You doing okay with all this? Family disputes can be messy. I'm fine. Surprisingly fine, actually. And I was. Each day that passed, I felt lighter. The guilt I'd expected never materialized. Instead, I felt relief. Years of Vanessa's subtle digs, her implications that my life was somehow less valuable than hers, her assumption that my possessions were hers for the taking because I didn't have a husband or kids to justify them, all of it crystallized into absolute clarity. I didn't owe her access to my life. I didn't owe her forgiveness without accountability. I didn't owe her anything. The psychological toll of navigating family conflict, particularly when compounded by deep-seated resentment and entitlement, can be immense. It often leaves the wronged party questioning their own actions and sanity. This is where external validation, from a therapist or objective third parties, becomes invaluable. It helps re-anchor an individual's perception of reality and reinforces the legitimacy of their boundaries, shielding them from the relentless emotional manipulation often employed within dysfunctional family systems. 2 weeks later, Mom appeared at my apartment, unannounced. I saw her through the peephole and considered not answering, but avoidance felt cowardly. Hi, Mom. She looked tired, a profound weariness etched onto her face. Can I come in? I stepped aside. She sat on my couch, hands folded in her lap. Your sister is struggling. Okay. She's embarrassed. The neighbors saw the police. Her kids ask questions she doesn't know how to answer. Keith is angry all the time. That's unfortunate. Mom's expression tightened. You don't care at all. I care that she violated my property and my trust. I care that she shows zero remorse. Do I care that facing consequences makes her uncomfortable? No, Mom. I don't. She's your sister. And I'm a person with boundaries. She crossed them. Repeatedly. Deliberately. You're going to destroy this family over a house. The accusation hung heavy in the air. I took a breath, choosing my words carefully. I bought that house with money I earned from a job Vanessa thinks is meaningless. I saved for years while she and Keith took vacations and bought new cars. I worked weekends and holidays while she judged me for not having her version of a fulfilling life. That house represents my choices, my priorities, my success. And she treated it like a free Airbnb she was entitled to because I'm single, and therefore my achievements don't matter as much as hers. Mom started to protest. I held up a hand. She didn't ask permission. She lied to get access. She brought 10 people into my home without my knowledge. She caused me problems with my neighbors and HOA. She damaged my property. And when she got caught, she blamed me for enforcing boundaries. At no point has she said, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I violated your trust and your property. Not once. She's apologized multiple times. No, Mom. She said, I'm sorry you overreacted, and I'm sorry you called the cops on your family. Those aren't apologies. Those are manipulations. Mom stood abruptly. I don't know what happened to you. You used to be so sweet. I grew up. I learned my worth. And I stopped accepting being treated poorly just because someone shares my DNA. She left without another word. I sat in my quiet apartment, and a profound peace settled over me, warm and comforting like a blanket. The invoice went unpaid. Richard advised that pursuing the money through small claims court would cost more in time and stress than it was worth. Let it go, he said. You've made your point. So I did. Not because I forgave the debt, but because I had better things to do than chase people who would never admit fault. My therapist, Dr. Elizabeth Winters, helped me navigate the psychological fallout. Guilt is often the weapon people use when they can't defend their actions logically, she explained. Your family can't argue that what your sister did was acceptable. So instead, they're trying to make you feel bad for your response to it. It's working sometimes. That's because you're a person with empathy. But empathy doesn't mean accepting mistreatment. You can feel sorry that your sister is facing consequences while still maintaining that those consequences are deserved. Mom says I'm destroying the family. Are you? Dr. Winters leaned forward. Or are you simply refusing to enable dysfunction? The question resonated for days. Family dysfunction had always been there, papered over with forced politeness and the expectation that certain people would always accommodate certain other people. I'd been taught to be accommodating. Vanessa had been taught that accommodation was her due. Breaking that pattern felt like breaking the family itself. But perhaps the pattern was the problem, not my refusal to continue it. I poured my energy into upgrades, new locks, an enhanced security system, motion sensor lights, and a property manager who now vetted every single request. I even joined the Homeowners Association board. Gerald Martinez and his wife, Martha, became unexpected friends. They brought fresh baked bread on Saturday mornings. I shared coffee with them on my deck. Retired teachers, married 43 years, their dry wit was a balm. You know, Martha said one morning, when we first moved here 5 years ago, we were so worried about bad neighbors. Young people who'd party, or investors who'd neglect their properties. Gerald chuckled. Instead you got me and my drama, I said, smiling. Honey, you're the best neighbor we've had, Gerald said. Quiet, respectful, and you actually dealt with a problem instead of ignoring it. The last owner rented to college kids every summer. This is paradise compared to that. Their acceptance meant more than I expected. These strangers, allies. My own family, treating me like a pariah. 6 months after the incident, Dad called. He tried to be neutral, but I could hear the subtext. Vanessa and Keith were struggling financially. 3 kids were expensive. Keith's business had hit a rough patch. They'd been counting on free beach vacations to offset their tight budget. This information was meant to elicit sympathy, perhaps guilt, a reconsideration of my stance. How bad is it? I asked, my voice even. Keith's company lost 2 major contracts. They're looking at downsizing. Vanessa might need to go back to work. That's hard. It is, he said. She mentioned they've been using your beach house to save money on summer activities for the kids. Now they're stuck at home, and the kids are disappointed. There it was. The real reason for the call. Dad, I'm sorry they're struggling, genuinely. But their financial problems don't justify what they did, and they don't obligate me to provide free vacations. I know your mother just thought Mom always thinks I should sacrifice for Vanessa's comfort. When has Vanessa ever been asked to sacrifice for mine? Silence. We both knew the answer. The kids miss you, he said quietly. They ask about Aunt. That one hurt. Vanessa's children were innocent pawns. They didn't understand why family gatherings were now tense, why I wasn't at birthday parties. I miss them too. But I can't have a relationship with them while their parents are teaching them that what they did was acceptable. You think Vanessa is doing that? I know she is, because she's told them I overreacted. That I was mean. That family should help family. She's rewriting history to make herself the victim. And those kids are learning that lesson. Dad couldn't argue. He'd probably heard the same narrative, delivered with tears and righteous indignation. The conversation changed course, but the lingering thought remained. The kids were collateral damage, but it wasn't fair to teach them that boundaries were negotiable. That trust could be violated without consequence. Their financial problems were not my responsibility. My boundary setting hadn't created their struggles. It had simply ended their unauthorized solution. Thanksgiving approached like a storm on the horizon. Mom called in early November, her usual cheerful tone barely masking her anxiety. So, we're doing Thanksgiving at our house this year. The usual time. Okay, I said, already anticipating the trap. Vanessa and Keith and the kids will be there, of course. Are you inviting me or warning me? She sighed. Don't be like that. I'm inviting you. You're my daughter. I want both my daughters at Thanksgiving. Both your daughters, in the same room, after everything that's happened. It's been 6 months. Surely we can all be civil for one meal. Civil. As if our conflict were a minor disagreement over politics. Has Vanessa apologized? Actually apologized, not the non-apology she sent months ago. She's trying. This is hard for her too. That's not an answer, Mom. Please. For me, for your father, for the kids. They miss you so much. The kids. Always the trump card. I'll think about it, I said, knowing I wouldn't go. Later, I called Dad. She got to you too, he asked, before I could speak. Thanksgiving invitation/guilt trip. Yeah, she means well. She means she wants her picture-perfect family holiday, and doesn't care that one daughter violated the other's trust and property. He was quiet. If you don't come, she'll be devastated. And if I do come, I'll be miserable. Vanessa will be smug. The kids will be confused. Keith will glare at me all day. Aunt Paula will corner me with advice about forgiveness. Is that really better? Probably not, he admitted. But your mother has this idea that if she can just get you two in the same room, everything will magically fix itself. Has she considered that maybe things can't be fixed? That some relationships don't survive betrayal? I don't think she wants to consider that. We talked through scenarios, each one untenable. Finally, Dad said what I think he'd been holding back for years. You have my full support if you decide not to come. I'll handle your mother. She'll be heartbroken. She'll survive. And maybe she'll finally understand that actions have consequences, even for her favorite daughter. The admission hung between us. We'd never explicitly discussed Mom's favoritism, but it had always been there, an invisible bias. Vanessa could do no wrong. Her choices were always understandable, forgivable, defensible. Mine required constant justification. I'm not coming, I said firmly. I'll send a card and a gift for the kids, but I can't sit through a meal pretending everything's fine. I understand. I'll tell her. Thanks, Dad. I felt both relieved and sad. Holidays were supposed to be about family, and here I was, deliberately choosing to spend Thanksgiving alone. But the alternative felt worse. I spent Thanksgiving volunteering at a local soup kitchen, then treated myself to a quiet dinner at a small restaurant. The waitress was kind, the food was good, and I didn't have to navigate passive-aggressive comments. Mom didn't call that day, or the next. When she finally called 3 days later, her voice was cold. I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving. I did, actually. How was yours? The kids kept asking where you were. Sophie cried. Your sister barely ate, but I'm sure your volunteer work was very fulfilling. The sarcasm was sharp, uncharacteristic. Vanessa's influence, no doubt. Mom, I'm not going to apologize for protecting my mental health. Mental health? Is that what we're calling selfishness now? I could have argued, defended myself, listed every reason. Instead, I said, if that's how you see it, then maybe we don't have much more to talk about right now. Maybe we don't. She hung up. I sat, phone in hand, feeling the weight of that disconnection. My mother had just chosen sides. And it wasn't mine. A year after the incident, a Facebook message from Vanessa. 3 sentences. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. I stared at it. It could have been genuine. It could have been Mom's coaching. It could have been desperation for reconciliation. I didn't respond. Maybe someday I would. But forgiveness required trust, and trust required evidence of change. 3 sentences after a year of silence wasn't evidence. I closed the message and went back to planning my next beach weekend. The house was mine. The boundaries were clear. And for the first time in years, I felt completely, authentically free. Gerald saw me pulling in that Friday evening, waved from his porch. Good to see you, neighbor. I waved back, smiling. Good to be here. And I meant it. The moral of this story isn't just about property rights, or the lines family shouldn't cross. It's about the profound liberation that comes from honoring your own worth and courageously drawing boundaries, even when those you love most resist. It teaches us that authentic relationships are built on mutual respect, not just shared DNA. So, how much of yourself are you willing to sacrifice to maintain the illusion of family harmony? Is blood always thicker than boundaries, or are some ties simply not worth the cost of your peace?